What happens when a young black boy, dismissed and humiliated by his racist math teacher, steps up to prove his worth? Rashad Tate, quiet but brilliant, faces the ultimate test in front of a packed, all-white crowd, including the man who doubted him the most. Will he crack under pressure or deliver a performance that no one will ever forget? And how will the teacher react when the truth about Rashad's genius is revealed? Stay tuned as we uncover the full details. It was the first day of school at Magnolia Hills Academy, a private school located in the heart of an affluent suburb in Georgia. Room 204 was no different, except for it being an all-white classroom. 12-year-old Rashad Tate stood at the door, clutching his backpack strapped tightly. His dark brown eyes scanned the room nervously as the teacher, Mr. Vernon Chase, motioned for him to come forward. Rashad's mother had recently moved him from their old school in Atlanta to Magnolia Hills, hoping for better opportunities, but Rashad already felt out of place. He was the only black student in a sea of unfamiliar faces. "Class," Mr. Chase said, his voice clipped. "This is Rashad Tate. He'll be joining us this year. Rashad, take a seat in the back." Rashad nodded and made his way to the empty desk by the window. The whispers started almost immediately. Is he on a scholarship? Probably can't even afford lunch here. Why'd they let him in? Mr. Chase didn't bother to address the murmurs. He adjusted his glasses, turned to the chalkboard, and began writing a long equation. From the very first week, Rashad could tell Mr. Chase didn't like him. It wasn't anything overt, no harsh words or outright insults, but it was in the little things. When Rashad raised his hand, Mr. Chase would call on someone else. When he asked a question, Mr. Chase would sigh loudly before answering. And when Rashad turned in his assignments, they always came back with harsh critiques, even when he knew his work was correct. One afternoon, during a particularly difficult lesson on quadratic equations, Rashad's hand shot up. "Yes, Rashad?" Mr. Chase said, barely concealing his irritation. I think you made a mistake in step 3, Rashad said hesitantly. The class fell silent. Mr. Chase turned to the board, his face reading. "And what makes you think that?" he asked, his voice cold. "Well," Rashad began, "if you divide by 2x here, it cancels out the..." "That's enough," Mr. Chase snapped. "Let's not pretend you know more than the teacher." The class erupted in muffled laughter. Rashad sank lower in his seat, his cheeks burning. He clenched his fists under the desk, determined not to cry. If you're enjoying this story and want to hear more, hit that subscribe button now. Don't miss out. Despite the humiliation, Rashad refused to give up. Numbers had always been his escape, his safe place. At home, he spent hours solving complex equations in his notebook, often working through problems far beyond his grade level. His mother, a single parent and former math teacher, had nurtured his love for mathematics since he was little. "You've got a gift, Rashad," she would say. "Don't let anyone dim your light." One evening, as Rashad sat at the kitchen table with his homework, his mother noticed his furrowed brow. "Everything okay?" she asked. "It's Mr. Chase," Rashad admitted. "He acts like I'm not good enough to be in his class." His mother sighed, her face hardening. "You don't have to prove anything to him, Rashad. Just keep doing your best. The truth always comes out." The next week, Magnolia Hills announced its annual Math League competition. It was a prestigious event, with students competing against other schools in the district. Mr. Chase, the faculty advisor for the team, stood at the front of the class with a clipboard in hand. "Only the top 5 students will make the team," he said. "If you're interested, sign up after class." Rashad hesitated. He knew he was good at math, but he also knew Mr. Chase wouldn't want him on the team. Still, he couldn't let fear hold him back. When the bell rang, he approached the desk. "I'd like to try out," Rashad said. Mr. Chase raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure about that?" "Yes," Rashad said firmly. Mr. Chase smirked. "All right, Tate. Let's see what you've got." On the day of the tryouts, Rashad was ready. He'd spent hours studying, memorizing formulas, and practicing mental math. The test was grueling, but Rashad breezed through it. When the results were posted, his name was at the top of the list. Mr. Chase looked displeased but couldn't argue with the numbers. Rashad was officially on the team. The Math League competition was held in a grand auditorium, filled with students, parents, and teachers. Magnolia Hills was up against their biggest rival, Crestview Academy. The tension was palpable as the final round began. The last question was a complex equation that stumped even the judges. One by one, the Crestview team members attempted to solve it and failed. Then it was Rashad's turn. He stepped up to the board, his heart pounding. The room was silent as he worked through the problem, his mind racing. After what felt like an eternity, he put down the chalk and stepped back. The judge examined his work, then nodded. "Correct." The crowd erupted in cheers, but Rashad's eyes were on Mr. Chase. For the first time, the man looked genuinely stunned. Back at school, Rashad was a hero. His classmates, who had once mocked him, now treated him with admiration. But the biggest surprise came from Mr. Chase. After class one day, Mr. Chase called Rashad to his desk. "I owe you an apology," he said, his voice uncharacteristically soft. "I underestimated you, and I was wrong." Rashad didn't know what to say. He simply nodded and walked away, feeling a sense of closure. Rashad's story became a turning point for Magnolia Hills. It wasn't just about winning a competition, it was about breaking barriers and challenging stereotypes. Rashad proved that talent and determination could shine through even the darkest clouds of prejudice. Share your thoughts on this story in the comments section, and do not forget to like and subscribe to this channel for more updates on this story and more.